I still get excited. I still, analysing it and working on the games like we do.
It's that promise of something that can be delivered. Everyone's allowed to dream. And for a team like Toronto FC, it's the start of what they believe can be a very successful journey again towards, winning trophies.
Footy Talks presented by Benjamin Moore. Welcome along to the show. Luke, Stephen and KJ with you as always. And today we will be joined on the show by Toronto FC head coach Greg Vanney. Just watching the intro there, it makes you pine, I suppose, after those days when people could get together to watch games and cheer all together. I said to Stevie last night, KJ, during the broadcast in the first half, imagine if TFC were on a 5-match winning run, clear at the top of the Eastern Conference and the Supporters' Shield, leading at home through a Pozuelo penalty. What it would have felt like inside BMO Field last night. Instead, everyone's having to watch on as they play in front of empty stands at Hartford, Connecticut. It almost hit home last night, just what we're missing and what everybody else is missing by not being able to be there.
Yeah, it's a great point. We're going through that right now with a lot of other sports as well, and the difference it takes, that we're all missing it, and it just seems to be going on for a long time. We're seeing that there where, we saw us on the stage there with the great Toronto FC fans pre-season. It was, I believe, in 2020, although it feels like 3 years ago, but I think it was still this year when we did that, lads. So that's how long it's gone on. It's for everybody at home. Our jobs change because we're not at the stadium, but for the people that are watching this show and for the fans of a club to not be with your team when they're doing something special, it leaves a void. That's what, people work very hard. They have their families, they work, people go through things in their lives, and then they turn to sport sometimes for the distraction and to fill that emotional void sometimes and connect with players. And that's, I think, why it's important for us to maintain these kind of shows. It's why I hope that people are watching them and somehow, Greg Vanney's coming on today, that there's a connection there, I'm sure, within their own Zoom conversations at Toronto FC and all professional clubs around the world. Stevie, they're having those conversations. They don't want to lose the fans that, in particular with Major League Soccer, they're so vital to the whole complex of what they're trying to build here. It's still in the infancy, so to speak, in life. As Luke alluded to and so well put during that broadcast last night, it is hard to see this realization right now that doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon.
Yeah, they've lost that main touch point with their supporters, which was Saturday at 3 or Saturday at 7 or whenever the game comes around. And so clubs are trying to keep that connection, and find ways to bring the fans in, to allow them a little peek in the door. That's what the kind of whole point of shows like this, I guess, are. To allow these fans a little bit extra and a little bit insight, and it's affecting the game, guys. You think about a game like that yesterday, and it's at BMO Field, and there's 30,000 there, and TFC are winning 1-0, and we see they're getting a little bit tired, and they're on a long stretch, and the fans would give you that extra 5 or 10%. They really do. It's not a cliche. You just feel that energy, and you just find that little bit extra coming from the stadium and from the terraces. So it's missing and it's affecting games. And, the lads go an absolute worldie, but maybe TFC see that game out if there's 30,000 TFC fans there at BMO Field.
Let us know where you are watching or listening to us from today, and we'll say hi. Stevie's obviously in a pretty nice jail cell, but still looks like white walls and
he's getting his Benjamin Moore paint this weekend on the wall.
I moved because I was worried about my usual spot. It's so dull the day that I didn't think there was going to be enough light in, so I thought I'll choose this one, and it's not working, guys.
It looks good, mate. It's very bright.
KJ, you weren't on the broadcast last night, but at least I suppose your Atlanta Braves blew it so big early on that you didn't have to spend the night watching the baseball. You could get a TFC in time for kickoff.
Yeah, it would be
11 runs in one inning. What?
It would be you. It would be you guys to find a bit of negativity.
Fly here for anyone that notices he's going to land in my head, I think, any minute.
Presidential debate fly going on there in Stevie's house. But no, it would be you guys to bring any negativity up towards the Braves after we just lost our first game in the playoffs. It's let me enjoy this little bit of a moment.
Did it end up?
I think 15-3. But I'll be lying to say that I was watching the ninth inning because I wasn't, because I was watching you boys. But by then, actually, I was watching Sharon Doley, actually.
Well, what you did miss last night was Stevie splitting his pants. I don't know if you managed to find a way to repair those today, or did you just,
I was actually just upstairs looking at them right now, and I think they're beyond repair. And so I think I should tell this story properly.
Really through TSN meals, that's what I think.
You're insinuating I split my pants because my bum's getting too big, but that is not the case. It's split, not in the seam, KJ, like I did before about a year ago, remember? It's split on one of the pockets. So I don't know why the fabric's gone. I'm kind of annoyed. One of my favourite pair of navy pants, and it's got nothing to do with my big bum. It was just, a manufacturing error, I think.
I was doing sidelines once in Montreal, TFC Montreal game, and Greg Vanney's pants split right in front of me, and he got a little bit embarrassed by it. He was cheering, and then in the end, he had to get some kind of what do they call it? Wardrobe malfunction going. They had like a towel wrapped around his suit at one point, and then
I don't remember that, but
yeah,
he
had a big coat on it. So if you want to bring this all up, I'm sure Greg can maybe tell the story later.
Of all the questions he's probably expecting coming on the show, that might not be in his list of expectations. Chuck says, good day, greetings from the east shore of the Rhine, just south of the old West German capital, Bonn. So great to have you with us. That's probably somewhere else that KJ's visited, seeing as if he's got his name written on every wall in every country in Europe somewhere.
I don't know about that. I have been there though. Yeah, I've been to Germany many times, mainly around racing trips. But yeah, that's great.
Karen is in St. Catharines. Chrissy says she missed the home opener this year, so the last match at BMO Field was October against DC United last year. It feels like forever.
At least you got extra time to make up for it a little bit.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention 1 year ago on this very day, talking about BMO Field and what we saw last year, I will never forget, obviously, the game. But one of the highlights of, do you remember what it was, TV? You look at, do you know what was 1 year ago today?
I know what it was.
Stephen Caldwell, the assistant coach for Canada, charging up the tunnel and just mauling us after Canada's win against the United States at BMO Field. Yeah. Exactly 1 year ago on this day. What a night that was, Stevie.
What a night. One of my top 3 nights in football. Night was incredible. Maybe more than the night, maybe the whole build-up, a couple of weeks, was just such an awesome experience to be part of, and obviously to go and win that game the way that we did, the belief that the players had, the conviction that they played with, and to be a part of that, to kind of be a small part of that plan was absolutely exceptional, and I think that it's done wonders for Canadian soccer. I really believe that we'll be talking about that night in 20, 30, 40 years, because I think it's going to set us on a path of glory that I think is going to keep us in good position for years to come, KJ. It was a monumental night, wasn't it?
A monumental night where, for lots of different reasons, not enough people were in the stands. But I think as years go on, more and more thousands will have been in those stands as they tell the stories. It was one of those nights in Canadian soccer history where it was a pleasure to be there. Luke and I actually had a whole stand to ourselves, which, people in years I hope in years to come, when we're old and grey and we're still doing a show like this in our 80s, God willing, that we'll be telling that when I was a lad, me and Luke Wildman were sitting there in our own stand, and now Canada plays US in 50 years' time, so 50,000 every time. Yeah, we had our own stand that night, and we didn't want to sit in the press box. We're outsiders, so we went outside and sat in our own stand and watched the game. And then, saw the history-making night. It was a pleasure to be there, and great to see so many, as I know, fans of Canadian soccer that have waited a long time that were there, and will be able to tell, future generations, as you said, Stevie, just how important that was.
While we're on Canadian soccer and young talent coming through and players maybe that were involved that night, and I know how much you love individual awards, KJ, but just bear with me for this one, please.
I know where you're going. I'm prepared for this already.
Okay, so you're okay with this one?
No, I'm not okay with it.
He's not okay.
I know where you're going with it.
The UEFA Golden Boy Award, the best under-21 player in Europe in the last calendar year. 20 nominations have been put out today, and Canada has 2 on there. Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David, 2 of 20. England, I think, leads the way with 5. No other country apart from Canada has more than 2. So that just goes to show you. I mean, if you'd said that 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
1 year ago,
yeah, you wouldn't have believed it, KJ.
No, I would not have believed it. No, as much as I don't like individual awards and the nonsense, but it is a great credit to these 2 youngsters that they're getting the recognition that they deserve. And comes down to their performances in big competitions. I don't know if I'm, going on to your next question, but I think he will win. I think Alphonso Davies will win. I do, yeah. I think he will win because he got to the final. And I think, ultimately, probably his only competition is Erling Haaland who may win it as well. But based on the fact that Alfonso won the Champions League, I think he'll become the second defender to win it after Matthijs de Ligt. And I think he'll win it. Yeah, but I mean, and it'll be a big deal for him. Good for him. Yeah, but I'm not a big fan of individual awards myself. But I think, Stevie, it's, as I said, it's more of an honor that Jonathan's on it, David's on it, I think, because, I mean, I think anybody in the world could have put Alfonso Davies on it, but the journalists who are behind this award have recognized Jonathan David as being one of the top youngsters in his position at his age in the world.
Yeah, I'm glad they've recognised that as well, KJ, because I really believe that he is a guy who has exceptional talents, and they're a little bit hidden, they're a little bit in the background unless he's banging the goals in the back of the net. He's such a subtle quality player, his movement, his tactical intelligence, his ability to just, it's almost like 3 or 4 yards at times. We analyse training and games and everything with the national team, and we watch the way this guy moves, and it's just 3 or 4 yards in possession or 3 or 4 yards out of possession that prevents or adds to so much of a move. It's incredible, and it's natural. It's just there. You can coach these guys. It's wonderful to do so, but it's in them. You need to tell them something once and twice, and they have it. And he's that kind of player. So I know he's had a bit of a slow start in France, but he'll get up and running. He'll be mine. There's a fly. You see it, no? Right on me. He'll get.
No, you just look as if you're just waving your hands in the air.
he'll get up and running. And he'll be a wonderful player. He's just he's got everything in his game. I'm glad he's recognised. I think Haaland will win it personally, just because he's a striker. But I agree with you, KJ. I think Alfonso Davies should win it. I think he's had the best year out of everybody on that sheet, and he is a guy who has improved so much. His levels have just went to, probably a point I don't think anybody expected at this young stage of his career. So I hope Alfonso, I think Haaland.
Now, while we're talking about the international game, KJ, you'll remember it was just a week ago that we were actually in studio right now, and about 20 minutes into Scotland's game, we were,
right.
It was brutal. It was whatever the words were.
And now the world beaters.
By the way, now they're world beaters, and on one of the best runs they've ever had. And Stevie's last night, they're going into Nations League A. Well,
in Europe, look, the hottest side in Europe. There's no question about it. 3 magnificent victories, 2 points for the last 2 Nations League games to qualify to Group A, to get in with the big boys, and obviously a massive game against Serbia coming up. It's not the prettiest football, KJ, but it's proven to be very effective at the moment.
Effective's the word. Steve Clarke's taught an army on the way to the Euros. Just ask him, right?
and you know who's to blame for that, or to thank for that?
Who's that?
The latest assistant coach to arrive just in September. John Carver has, we'll try and get him on in a few weeks, Stevie, right?
Easy. We'll get him on before the Serbia game. We'll try and get him on building up to the big finals and the playoff games to get to the Euros. So, yeah, he's been great, JC. He's a guy that's got the experience. He knows Steve really well. Steve is another guy who's... What I like about Steve Clarke, now I worked with him way back in the day when I was at Newcastle as a boy. And I've saw him through the years. I've played against his teams and had moments with him. But he is a guy who keeps it level. He'll never get too high and he'll never get too low. And I think that's a strong attribute for a head coach of Scotland. It reminds me of the great Walter Smith, who was one of my head coaches with Scotland, who was the exact same. He was a guy who just never let things get too crazy either way. And you need to have that mentality, I think, when you're coaching our national team, KJ, with the way that people can go, any team in Britain, really, to be honest, out of the home nations. But with Scotland, for sure, he'll be telling them the reasons we won these games, the kind of work rate, the defensive side of the game, and the patience and the camaraderie are what's going to make us the best version of ourselves that we can be. And we showed that in these 3, but we're going to have to show it again and again to keep moving forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And I actually think, look, there'll be huge underdogs in that game against Serbia that we'll have on TSN, I think the 12th of November. So that should be I'm really excited for it. Just spend 3 or 4 hours in your presence during it will be fun for Luke and I.
I'll be nervous for that one.
It looks as if we're going to have football all the way up till Christmas as well, because we've got that coming up next month. MLS playoffs, of course, and being reported today out of Montreal by Tony Marinaro of TSN Radio there that the Champions League, CONCACAF Champions League, is going to go to a single site somewhere in California, Texas, Mexico. They haven't decided yet, but be played after MLS Cup in that week leading up to Christmas or so, with some single knockout matches. So we might be calling Montreal on Christmas Eve in the Champions League final. Who knows, boys?
Hey, let's get it in. I'm glad they're finding a way how to do it. It's the only way. It's the only formula they can do it. I know this has been discussed internally for a number of months. They know the Mexican League gets back pretty quickly as well, so they have to get this in as fast as they can. So, there is a platform from the UEFA. I've already showed them the roadmap in terms of single knockout. And, you never know with these things, guys. Some things happen for, this, that they look at this and they go, okay, UEFA's not adopted this, but we might. This could be their roadmap going forward. Why not bring the CONCACAF region together for a knockout style final, quarterfinal, semifinal, and final, Stevie? I think that they don't always have to do what Europe does. Let's make it something special, and that everyone's trying to adopt what can this CONCACAF Champions League become. Now it's awkward timing sometimes. Like, maybe there's a way they can find out that this can be a little bit of the norm going forward to make sure that the tournament gets a little bit more momentum and juice for just that shorter time.
Yeah, juice and attention, isn't it, KJ? Just try and get some people watching these games. We've been enjoying them for a few years now, and we know the quality of the region, not just Mexico and MLS. We know the quality of the region. You can, if you don't do your work, was it TFC played the team a few years ago? 18 was it? I can't remember. But anyway, tough game. They went out the tournament.
Panama, yeah.
It happens, the teams are getting stronger. So I think bringing them into a bubble or a knockout type tournament might be quite interesting, might be exciting. So, I can't wait. I really hope it gets played. I think it's very important for CONCACAF that this tournament gets finished, that they show that they're capable of organising something in really difficult circumstances and having a winner and completing it properly. I think it'll be great for the federation.
And TFC hoping to be in next year's CONCACAF Champions League. They've got the Canadian Championship final coming up as well, sometime probably before Christmas against Forge FC, the CPL winners from Hamilton, of course. So that's another thing that we've got to look forward to as this soccer comes thick and fast between now and the end of 2020. No word yet, as Matthew asked, any word on the championship final, Canadian Championship final? Nothing yet, although it has been said, of course, by Bill Manning, will be after the TFC season.
I wouldn't be surprised. Sorry to interrupt, Luke. I wouldn't be surprised that it maybe not be played until February. I just think, depending on what happens with Forge, but obviously they're playing their CONCACAF League games now. Yeah. But if they have to have a long period out where players and the turnover with the roster, they have to give it some kind of fairness that these teams are ready to be played. If Forge are weeks away and TFC just got knocked out in the playoffs, or they just won MLS Cup and they're raring to go and keep going, I think there has to be some competitive level there that in the integrity side of it. So, watch this space, but I wouldn't be surprised if it moves into next year.
Yeah, I think the Forge game is going to be on TSN as well when it comes around a little later this month in the CONCACAF League as well. Hi to Augusto, who is with us from Italy. Still to come on Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore. We'll be joined by the TFC head coach, Greg Vanney, as we look back on last night's game. TFC drawing with the New York Red Bulls. We just mentioned Montreal there. They lost at home to the Revs last night, but very difficult to expect much of Montreal, given the fact that they had probably 7 or 8 players, KJ, that just weren't available last night for one reason or another. Raitala away. They've got a mounting injury list as well for Thierry Henry. And now Safir Taider's gone as well. Were you surprised that Taider left at this moment in time? Or do you think this is basically Thierry Henry taking a good deal when he can get it, looking ahead to next year and now having a lot more flexibility with his cap?
I'm never surprised when a club from that region comes in to take an MLS player. Never. Because it's just the nature of the finances that can happen, and you're rarely ever going to see a club have the stranglehold. You call it whatever you want, the gumption, whatever, to say to that player, no, you're not going. Because if a player wants to go there, and as Stevie's mentioned before on this very show, the amount of money that goes with that, it's almost impossible to prevent them to go. At that point, what are you going to do? You can't get near the money they're paying anyway. If you try and get there, you're overpaying them MLS level. So I'm never surprised, to answer your question. I'm just sitting here. I was watching that last night a little bit and reading the stories that Thierry Henry took this job to come over here and prove that he could be a head coach in this sport. And boy, oh boy, has he taken some punches to the face. Like, he may be struggling with it sometimes and some of the things, and he's trying his hardest. But you think about what that guy's had to go through since he's come here. Not, pandemic aside, breaks away aside, games are played in the United States, injuries, people missing games because of birth of children, more suspensions, international breaks. Now your best player's been sold away for all this money. Your goalkeeper's been traded away. Your second goalkeeper. Now your first goalkeeper's gone back to France for personal reasons. Let's just keep adding them. He must be just waking up the next morning and go, what's next, lads? You know what I mean?
And now I think Binks is suspended at the weekend now against Higuain in Miami.
Right.
We'll have that one on TSN on Saturday night.
You know, so he's got that going on before they kick a ball. And then the other thing when they do kick a ball is they've actually got a high level of tactical IQ about them that you don't see a lot in MLS. There's a lot of interchange. They've still got Sean playing on the left, coming over the midfield, sending Piet going forward. And from our point of view, when we're evaluating games, there's a lot to like about it with the ball. But then talk about punches to the face. These players are doing it to him as well. Camacho again last night. They just hand presence every single game, Stevie, to opponents. So he must be thinking tactically, I'm doing the right thing here with the ball. But then almost every game, without fail, they're just single-handedly handing them a massive mistake every game, and the ball's in the back of the net, and that must be driving him crazy.
We're watching the highlights in the booth at half-time yesterday as we're waiting to call the second half of the TFC game, and we were, here we go. Camacho, not again. No, not again. Camacho. Like,
it's awful, isn't it? I felt for Thierry because you can prepare as much as you want, but what do? Like, you put these guys over the line and you expect them to do their job, really. And I like Camacho. He's a decent player, but he's made, 4? The sending off, the error against TFC, and last night are just inexplicable. You know, one of them in your career is bad, guys. 3 in a season, 3 in a shortened season in a space of 3 or 4 months is really, really poor. And so I feel for Thierry. You think of the goalkeeping error where, you know, they're passing out for the back. I know Thierry says these things happen. He wants them to pass, but another bad error. And so, you can prepare all you want. You can come up with the rotations and the 3-5-2 looking like a 3-4-2-1, and you can come up with all these fancy things. But if guys don't do their job, you're going to lose football games. That's what's happening at the moment. So I think the message on Saturday will be just batten down, do your job, make sure you don't make any errors, you're steady, you're reliable, and it would be a big victory if they can get it.
Talk about TFC's game last night and the 1-1 draw against the Red Bulls in a moment, and Greg Vanney on the way. But I don't know if either of you guys had the chance to watch the feature on Io Akinola that aired in Sports Centre last night. Anyone who hasn't seen it, it's available on tsn.ca and on the TSN YouTube channel as well. There are so many times in the game, Stevie, and it's not just, I mean, this is a major story of Io Akinola and how he overcame stuff that was thrown at him that most people in life just don't have to deal with. You know, going in a homeless shelter, living there at the age of 12, finding his mom wanting to take her own life and having to deal with that situation, and the motivation that gives to him now as a player. Just goes to show you that Io Akinola, even without that, was a good story this year coming in. But it puts everything into perspective in terms of that hunger and that desire that some players have is far beyond just wanting to be a good football player.
Yeah, it's always beyond just wanting to be a good football player. There's something at the bottom of everybody. It's not always a tragic story or a terrible story or a tough upbringing, but there is something there that gives these guys that determination. I mean, you know, it's like you're fighting against millions of people that want to do the same thing, and many of them have the talent, and it comes down to, I've said this a million times for you guys, but it comes down to the resilience and the determination and how you can overcome adversity for the ones that actually get there. And you know, when you hear the story, it makes you realise that everybody's different in this world. And so ultimately everybody's different in the game of soccer, the game of football. So you have to find a way of communicating with people and getting to know them, getting to know their story before you can judge them or assume they're one thing or the other. I think that was the big lesson for everybody, that, you know, get to know people, get to know your teammates. If you're a head coach, get to know your players, understand what makes them tick, understand what they've went through, because only then can you truly manage them and kind of get the best out of them, you know. And so I think that a story like Akinola, it shows you the kind of nurturing that TFC have done. You know, they've known the story. They know what's going on inside the guy's life, I'm sure. And they've nurtured this lad along to the point where he feels confident, he's ready, he's matured, and he's shown some wonderful performances. His performance last night, last thing for me, KJ, was really interesting because he still made the right runs and he got into great areas. He just didn't have the spark and the bite. But to me, it was a positive thing because he was getting in the right spots. It wasn't like he couldn't get there. He just never had a great night. And that is very, very encouraging for me. And I'm sure for Greg Vanney as he thinks about the games ahead as TFC try and achieve their goals.
Yeah, a great point. And I think more importantly, Ayo Akinola will look at that night last night and think there's a lot of positives from it because his reading of the game is getting better. He's exceptional now at understanding those runs and making sure that he gets the better of the defenders. And it's clear that, when teams come against TFC, that they have to counter him and what they're going to do with him. So yeah, it's a wonderful piece. Credit for those who put it together. And, Ayo for, it's obviously for his family to share that. Everyone's got stories, and this one is obviously very different. And thankfully, not everybody has been through that. But even those who have don't always feel comfortable sharing it. And credit for him to allow the viewers and everybody else into his personal life a little bit. And I think that also shows you a little bit of a glimpse to Ayo that maybe you wouldn't have seen a year ago. This is not a story that was told, and it could have been, but it wasn't a story that was told when he was playing a little bit of minutes here and there and try to get a little bit more on the radar and want to get out there. It was, okay, people come to me. I feel a bit more comfortable now in my position. I feel a little bit more like I'm accomplished something, and he's not going to tell you he's accomplished anything. But okay, if you want to tell this story, I'll get it out there. It's not something I've been shouting from the rooftop, so to speak. So every credit to the Akinola family and for those that did it.
Did you feel last night, Stevie, it's been a really busy schedule, and certainly in the second half there, did it seem as if there was a few tired legs for TFC against the Red Bulls?
Yeah, I really thought they hit a brick wall last night, TFC. Some of their most influential players, Delgado and particularly Captain Jonathan Osorio, who I've been praising to the hilltops for very good reason. He's been brilliant, but he literally hit a brick wall. I felt sorry for him because, I know how fit he is, so I know what that must have took for him to get there, to hit that wall like that. But it was like when you see a Tour de France cyclist, KJ, climbing the mountains. When they go. They literally can barely turn the pedals. The lactate and the lack of energy, the lactate builds up in the muscle, the energy goes, and you've got nothing left in you. And I thought Ozo was one of the examples. I think Marky Delgado a little bit as well, who are the engine of that team. And it just kind of got deeper and deeper. I was crying out for a substitution. Maybe we can ask Greg about it. But I thought maybe Liam Fraser coming in might have gave them that stability within the middle of the park. And, you think maybe Delgado going to the right or going to a 3 and looking like maybe a 4-5-1 a bit more would have been the thing to go for, because they just lost that industry in the main area. And Red Bull, so no real quality, just started to overpower them a little bit and started to get a foothold, didn't they?
Yeah, great points. I thought exactly the same. And the other thing that they lack when they don't have the fitness and energy is they lack presence. And I think even when Michael Bradley hits that wall that you mentioned, and it's rare, but he always has presence. And I think he brings a bit of power to the team that, no disrespect to Osorio Delgado, they just don't bring it. It's just not what they are. Osorio's got the intricacies, and obviously Delgado's got the legs. A couple of things that Osorio did last night were tremendous, like the pass that he played quickly in the final third to, I think it was to Akinola. There's not anybody in the team who could really see that from that position. But as he did get tired, the ball inside to Mavinga that led to the corner, that obviously led to the disallowed goal when they gave the ball away. There was obviously fatigue there as well. So I think it was one of their things where, the power was lacking a little bit there last night to carry them through it. And maybe it was screaming out, as you said, for a little bit of depth. But I do think that maybe Osorio and Delgado before last night had done enough to think, what are you going to do with Michael Bradley? And then maybe we'll get to that with Greg a little bit later. Greg Vanney comes on. But yeah, it was a difficult night for them, but a night that they didn't lose, and a night that they struggled with the press a little bit. And I also think maybe from the other side of it, if I'm watching it and an opponent plays TFC in the playoffs, I think the Red Bulls showed teams that if you be direct and you get that ball forward and you go long a little bit and you don't try and play a passing game a little bit like Philadelphia would, or somebody, that maybe, Stevie, they can show a little bit of a vulnerability. It may be there. That might be, if you're a team who you're not as good as TFC, if you're a 1 versus an 8, for example, that might be their best route to success.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, KG, but I do think that they dealt with the long ball really well. But you bring up a great point there, because it just became so consistent that dealing with it actually tired them out maybe more than a normal game where you're just kind of shuffling the lines and you're dealing with shorter 5-10 yard passes. So it's quite an interesting point. So I never thought about it until that moment there. And as you're saying it, I'm going, well, I can't remember any time that I felt like the long ball was having great effect. But when you're a centre half and you're asked to run into that channel, whether you're Gonzalez or Mavinga, two different profiles, and you're defending it and you're doing it again, you're doing it again, you're doing it again, eventually you're like, I am sick of this. And you're like, I've had enough of this. And the young lads of the Red Bulls just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And midfield started to overrun a little bit, pick up the second balls. And like I said, there was no real quality there. I was really disappointed in the Red Bulls in terms of their building up, which is the type of football that we like to watch. It was so direct from them that I was a bit disappointed in that. But you have to say it was an effective game plan in the end, because it allowed them to just overpower TFC and state their dominance.
Got to say hi to Murphy Malone, who is with us watching from his science class, supposed to be listening to a chemical experiment.
Good luck.
No, don't go back to it. You'll learn more here, Murph. Stay away from class.
Not much about chemicals and science, I wouldn't think. But Murph, for those of you who don't know, big TFC fan, actually lives pretty close to the stadium in Hartford, and I'm told he delivered a birthday cake this week to the team hotel.
Awesome.
For Omar Gonzalez, who celebrated his birthday a little earlier this week when the team had their Thanksgiving festivities. Let's go to East Hartford now. Delighted to say that on Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore, we're going to be joined by the head coach of Toronto FC, Greg Vanney, following that game last night. TFC 1-1 against the Red Bulls. Greg, thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Hey guys, my pleasure.
Great to have you on the show again. First off, just your thoughts on what transpired last night, and in a really busy schedule for your team with the shortest turnaround that you've had. Maybe some tired legs in the second half there, and you can't keep going at the same pace and power that you have been forever.
Yeah, I think the image of the game was what it was. They weren't super interested in playing. They were very direct, which, between our guys in the front line trying to step out and get pressure to some of that direct service, but not really getting pressure. Then the balls are direct and played deep. You end up getting a little bit stretched out from front to back. Then, balls are getting knocked down into the space in the midfield, and our midfielders had to do a lot of work to try to pick up second balls. And, over time, I think that starts to wear on you a little bit as a team. And, they're relentless in doing it. They've got a young group of guys who will just keep doing the running, and then they bring on another set of guys who will just keep doing the running. And so it just becomes, you have to manage a lot of that stuff over a long game. It becomes frustrating. And I think it starts to also impact like your own decision-making as a team, that you get kind of sucked into this concept that the game is a certain way. And you get almost over eager at times when you do have possession and you do get into the other team's half of the field, that you have to finish these attacks pretty quick, or you have to, and the game just kind of ends up being a little bit chaotic. That's sort of, you get sucked into that view of things. And I felt, between a little bit of tired legs and then I think a little bit tired minds as well, we got pulled into that a little bit too much over the course of the night. Again, I think when you play teams that are willing to play like that sometimes and press all out, you really got to punish them when you do get the chances, because if you do, then it really changes, again, the mindset of the game and the mindset of the opposition. And we let a few chances go by that maybe we would like to have done a little bit better with. And so, this being the fourth game in this set, I think a lot of it just starts to kind of compound over the course of 90 minutes, and we never really want to try to break too far away from our vision of having the ball and playing through the pressure and being able to move things. We don't want to get into just playing direct, though. At times, it's the direct, the route one route is also a good way to pull them apart sometimes, because they're overcommitted to pressing, but then you run the risk of stretching the game out again. So it becomes an interesting sort of quandary as you play over the time. And when, like you said, it's on 3 days of rest, you don't get a lot of time to prepare for something that is a little bit different than maybe you play against in other games. And so our focus here was more on just recovery and rest and and trying to live on the continuity of each of these games as we go from one to the next. And this is just a very different image of the game than what we've encountered in the last few. So, we did enough to be ahead in the game, and we did enough to create some chances to get the 2-0, I thought, lead. But by not, we leave ourselves vulnerable, and a team that's just going to be opportunistic. That's the way they play the game. They're opportunistic and they look for their moment. And what a hell of a finish by the young man anyways. You got to give him credit for the shot. But I was a little more disappointed that we lost the ball again between our lines in our half of the field. That sort of leads to that opportunity that they get. But it's quite the shot that he put away.
Greg, before you came on, we were talking a little bit about what you said there about New York going direct, and you said if you change your style there, you just said, you can run the risk of it getting stretched. Despite the tired legs and the tired minds, does it say a lot about maybe your leadership, but this team that even though the team tried to take you away from the different look, that your guys still kind of stuck to your game plan, that we know what you guys play now, and that you don't turn it into that kind of game that they wanted to, particularly from you with an attacking point of view?
Yeah, again, I think that's that's something we've set in stone here for a while, and that's the players that we have. It's the way they view the game too. With Io up top and his ability to get behind, sometimes you can drop some balls into the depth and just let him go and track, which is nice to have. But our guys we're all committed to playing because we think over the course of 90 minutes it's our best chance of getting results, not shifting into something else or trying to do something too different from what we've done, and it's been good for us. So we stick with it. I don't think we were at our sharpest version of it last night by any stretch. Too many balls lost. Sometimes guys taking just a little bit too much time on the ball against a team that they go the extra yard on you defensively. Like, they don't just get close to you, they go through you. And so if you don't move the ball quickly, then you turn over the ball. And we got caught on the ball a few too many times, where if we just move the ball just a little faster, I think we could expose some of the gaps that would be created through their aggressive pressure. But in the end, it's, again, the mentality of the group is what's enabling us to be where we are right now. I mean, there's a lot of things that are challenging that we could be focusing on, and we're not. And everybody, no matter what the image of what any of these games look like, we're competing from first minute to last minute, and we're dealing with whatever we have to deal with on the field, off the field, in every other way, which is why we are where we are. So a lot of credit to our guys for just the strength of mentality really through all of it.
Greg, I want to pick up on that kind of point. Really, I had a great coach and mentor at Newcastle called Tommy Craig, who used to say tiredness is a state of mind. That was his favourite thing whenever we were getting tired, and how difficult it is what you guys are dealing with. And how do you as a head coach keep these lads kind of going and motivated? They're away from their families. Some have young families. Some are young lads who want to enjoy a great city like Toronto, and they're kind of stuck in their hotels, and they're just kind of going through Groundhog Day, it feels like, playing game after game. We know you guys have done a brilliant job of it, but how difficult is that for you to try and find motivation for these fellas, and not just on the pitch, but kind of out with the game and different activities to keep everybody fresh, light and clear?
Yeah, for us, the one thing that we have that's good for us is I think our guys lean on each other. There's a lot of friendships on the field, off the field, that exist within our team, and guys who really kind of see each other like family in some ways. And so they lean on each other. I think from the staff standpoint to the players, I think there's a really good relationship there in terms of just communicating and just being. We acknowledge what the situation is, but we have two ways to deal with it. We can sit back and complain about it and make it worse for ourselves, or we can find the best way to lean on each other and give each other strength and support each other through it. And good things might be able to come out of it. And if you can, at the end of the day, people are going to be talking about how strong of a group you are and what an amazing feat this is if you can do all of this stuff. And that's much better than the alternative in the end. So we just need to be there for each other and understand that it's challenging. The club obviously does a nice job of trying to help families that aren't here or that are away, and so to try to take some of the stress off of the guys there. But I do think a lot of it is just the relationships all across the board, from our staff, from our medical staff to the guys and everywhere else, that this is a little bit of a family support system here, even though times aren't great. And so from there, we try to build off of that. And to be fair, good performances, good results, all kind of feed into it, because if you get on the wrong side of it, then the negativity can start to creep in. Little things start to become big things, and we've been able to manage to stay on the right side of all of that.
You probably haven't had a chance to see it yet, Greg. I'm not sure, but we were talking earlier in the show, and it's along the lines of the personal side of things. Ayo Akinola's story that aired on TSN last night during SportsCenter. Incredible story where he takes people in depth into what he had to go through, living in a homeless shelter, things with his family, and the pressure that is on him or has been on him to get to where he is now, not just from a footballing perspective. And I wonder when you, it's probably one of a number of stories that you know of like that, Greg, but coaching isn't just about what you do on the field. And I know from your perspective, a lot about what you do off it as well. And these relationships with these players, how important from your perspective, and has it become more so as you've grown in your management, is it knowing those backstories to all the players that are within your locker room?
Yeah, I think it's more important now than it ever has been in sports to be able to connect with the players as people, as humans, and understand that, right? For me, I look at communication as 3 parts, right? There's the person that we're always trying to get to know and understand. And that's when the player shows up with his bag on the training field, whether it's a youth player or not, it's all the stuff that comes in that bag. It's the baggage that he brings from his life that you get to know that person, right? And then there's the player who you're trying to teach the game, you're trying to get them to understand all that. And then there's the competitor, who is the person you're trying to drive, and you're trying to make them, right, give you everything they have on the field and really just compete, right? And there's sort of these 3 different pieces of every individual that you're trying to just work with. And so, you know, getting to know our guys as people and understanding what makes them tick, I think is vital in being able to help them be successful, which in return is to help your team be successful. And I think that's more prevalent now in society, and the way things work in society now with social media and everything about how emotions and people feel and all of these things that are in there. And so getting to know them is huge. You know, in Ayo's specific case, he's a player I've known since he was really young. I have seen firsthand the pressure mount on him over the years, especially, you know, last year as he was trying to prepare for an under-20 World Cup, and that then went sideways because of an injury, and how much pressure he had on him, you know, at the end of the season. Like, literally, I just said, "Are you having any fun doing what you're doing?" And you could tell he just broke down. It was like, I know I just feel so much pressure. And for me, then it was all about like removing the pressure from him in some way, shape, or form, to try to give him a platform to just enjoy the game. Like, if you don't enjoy the game, it can be brutal. And he's only 20, right? So it was just to try to take that pressure off of him as much as I could in the environment that we've created, so that he could find joy in it again. And once you have joy, you start to work hard. Things start to happen because he's talented. And we started to see that. And at the beginning of this year, I think he bought a house for his family, which I thought was, it's like the truest sign of success if you can buy a home for your family and move them into a place. And I felt like he had accomplished something big for his family, and you could see some of that come through his play. And now we've seen him emerge, right? He has 2 enormous games. One, his first game in Orlando, enormous, right? Second one, he backs it up. And then he just finds joy now. You can see him every day. He loves competing. He loves getting out there. He wants the next opportunity. And he's found a good spot, and he's going to take off from that because of it. But I could feel the pressure that he was carrying. You know, and I know his family, his background. I know his mom. I know everything around, and to try to just help him out to get him to where he needed to be successful. And now we just got to continue to build off of that, because he's got a platform now to continue to grow as a player, and he's got a great mindset, and he's ready to go. So,
Greg, if you don't mind following up, just to share a little bit more on that, as you really in your leadership roles and how you get that empathy for players, because obviously you're judged on winning games, developing players, picking teams, getting people in. And you talk about what you noticed last year with Ayo, and Ayo wouldn't mind me saying this, no disrespect to him, but he was probably 18th, 19th, 20th most important player to Toronto FC at that time. He wasn't getting in games very often, and you're able to notice him at that point. How quickly did you recognize that in the job that you've had now, that you needed to make sure that those players are there? Because there may be an Ayo Akinola right now in your squad who may be number 19, 20, 21, that this time next year we may be talking about because of his success on the field. So just talk to us a little bit about that, because I'm sure as a coach, in some regards, it's easy to focus on those 11 every week, isn't it?
Yeah, if I was to say a strength, or sometimes some could say a weakness of mine, is that I feel for all of the players. So even right now, we're in a situation where we don't have a TFC2. We don't have a platform for some of our younger players to get games right now. They're here with us. They're just training every day. And I'm like, there is an 11 or 14 or 15 who are trying to get us results. And now we're at the top of the supporter shield race, but I'm trying to figure out, how do I get these guys minutes? How do I keep these guys motivated and moving forward? Whether it's Jaden or Jack, or Jaquil, or these young guys that we believe in, but others like Subasa and, Jacob Schaffelberg and these guys, like, I have more energy right now when I sit here thinking about, how do I keep those guys moving forward, because we don't have all the platforms at our disposal. Because at the end of the day, if we win a championship, it's also going to be because they feel like they're a part of it, and they're showing up every day to push the guys who we need to perform week in and week out to win. And so for me, there's more energy at times on just their emotional well-being, and also that they feel like they're getting what they need to continue to progress and to help our group and all that. And that's been the biggest challenge of all this, in all honesty, is to try to look after 30 guys who we have here in a way that everybody feels like they are contributing and or important, and for the team, but also for their careers and everything else. And that is, for me, a lot of energy goes into that, and trying to balance that. You've seen a guy like Subasa, who hasn't played in a number of games. He comes on last night, and I thought he did great when he came onto the field. And he's a guy that helped us get to the finals last year, but he hasn't played a few games because I'm trying to bring Jaden into the mix and get him to feel it. So some guys have had to adapt a little bit, but I'm just conscientious of trying to accomplish so many things with so little sort of minutes in the grand scheme of things, even though these games are going fast. And now you're trying to balance that with, damn, we're at the top of the table, and we might be able to win another supporter shield, and we might be able to get to, right? If you're in 4th or 5th place, you can do this, and it's not so difficult, and you're just going to stay there. But when you want to hold that top spot, it's a different position that you're trying to manage out of it all, and you're trying to do a few different things. So I'm glad we're there, and I envy it, but I'm just trying to take care of everybody who's here and giving us everything they have every day.
You guys are going to get a few days at home, Greg, after Sunday's game, I believe, and then it's back to Hartford. And will it feel like at that point that it's really kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of the season, and it'll be, the kind of excitement will get flowing again heading towards the playoffs?
Yeah, I think at the end of this 5-game stretch, and of this 5-game stretch, this one against the Red Bulls was the one I had the most concern about. And, coming off of 2 road games, both on turf, short rest against a team that plays a kind of a style that is the Red Bulls. That was the game I'm most concerned about. We have 4 days going into the next one. It's the last one of these series. I think guys will be locked in. We've got to go out and compete and get a good result. But then I think when we go home and we have a couple days to kind of recoup and to see family and to whatever, I think we're looking at the tail end, the stretch run now, once we get through this little set of games. And so I think that's the case, Stephen. I think that we got to power through this last one here in this stretch. And then I think there will really be a sense of the playoffs are right around the corner, but there's also going to be a sense of we're really in a battle for that top spot. The first game back is against Philadelphia in Philadelphia, which is going to be super meaningful. But it'll be come off of both teams having a little bit of preparation time and a little bit of rest. So it's exciting, and we always say when the weather starts to cool off, the playoffs are right around the corner. So we're starting to get some of that as well.
Well, as Mike says on the comments, it's the business end of the season when the Vanney beard is in full flow. So there you go. It must be.
If I'm at home, my wife may maybe shave it a little bit.
A bit different there in the top floor, the penthouse presidential suite of whatever nice hotel it is downtown Hartford that you're in. Bill Manning, the president, was on TSN radio yesterday, said that he had a couple of glasses of wine with you the other night, and that within the next couple of days, he said within days, there might be some kind of an announcement about a new contract for you. How close is the pen to the paper right now? Is it on the table in front of you? Are you nearly there?
In your pocket?
On the table, and I have to say it wasn't multiple glasses of wine. It was kind of it was a post dinner conversation, but and there happened to be wine at dinner. But yeah, it was, we're working through it. For me, I'd love to be here for the next 10 years. I know that's not, always in the cards with the job that we're doing. So we need to roadmap out kind of where we're going with the team and how we're going to get there and some planning stuff. And you guys all know that I am super involved just in general with the club as a whole and trying to define a little bit of our vision for the club and what things we want to do moving forward and how this is going to look as we continue to build. My goal here is that I want TFC to be the best club in North America and that we start to close some territory on what we're measured against, which is clubs around the world. And what does that look like and what does that entail and how do we get there and how do we achieve that? What do they need my role to be in that? What do I envision that to be and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to work through that. There's a lot of just questions and dialogue and talking and stuff like that. But, we've got a nice history and legacy that's been started here. And obviously we'd like to see that continue as much as we can.
So a 10-year contract on the way then, is that what I'm hearing?
I definitely know what that's going to look like. I don't think anybody trusts me that much, but
listen.
Hey, Alan Pardew got an 8-year contract once.
Yeah.
He did not win anywhere near as much as you won, Greg. So maybe you can put that in there a little bit, at least as for that.
Every week on the show, we have the Benjamin Moore do-it-yourself play of the game. And this week, we saved it for something that I spotted on the Toronto FC Twitter account this week. Producer Kev can play this. You know where I'm going here. 1996, the Western Conference Final. LA Galaxy against Sporting Kansas City. And the shootout here. Talk us through this.
Yeah, the touch was a little too far for me. I got a little nervous, I think, when I see the keeper coming hard and the touch was there. So then I felt like I rushed it at the end, but I managed to sneak it under him. But so let me give you a little context in this game. We went down 1-0 in Kansas City on a penalty kick given up by me. So I was a little anxious. So then we actually tied the game 1-1 on a free kick that was scored by myself. So then I felt like I had vindicated the whole situation. And then it all came down to that play. And that was in my rookie year, by the way. So I think that's why I was a little excited. I still don't really know how to celebrate goals, but I run around like a fool. But that was kind of the culmination of a game where I felt really bad. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cost our team, to the elation of helping us to win it. But yeah, that shootout thing I'm glad that's gone because that was nerve wracking.
Were you a regular in those shootouts? Did you take more than that one?
I was. I will give you a little known fact, and you guys I know are statistics and historians. Go back and look. I think I am the all-time leading scorer in the shootout for the history of Major League Soccer. I think that's, and I hope they bring that thing back, and then I'll have it forever.
There you go. You can tell Pozuelo that you're the shootout man.
Yeah, he's like the Pozuelo of the 90s and the early MLS days.
Let's be clear. The level of player back in the league at that time is a little different than it is now. So while it's there.
There were a couple of things I noticed. I showed that to my 9-year-old. I said, do you recognize who this is? His first guess was Steven Gerrard. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But then second guess, he did actually get that it was you. So you haven't aged that much since 1996. The other thing was, I think if I'm right, I noticed because I looked up the teams from those games. Robin Fraser was in there, Dan Calichman as well for you. And what are the odds that all this time later, 3 past or present TFC coaches, because I think in Kansas City's lineup, Mo Johnston and Preki were both in there as well, if that's right, for the Wizards.
Yeah, and the goalkeeper was Garth Lagerwey, who obviously we know is an executive in the league now. So a lot of guys who've had some roles around the league, but a lot of TFC connections there, as you said. Yeah.
And some great jerseys as well along the way.
Man, those things were like 5 pounds. They weren't like sublimated; they were sewn on. They were so heavy.
Do you still have them, Greg? Were you a jersey collector?
Yeah, I have a lot of those. So yeah, they're hidden in some box somewhere in our house for our boys one day to try to wear around. I don't know.
Did you trade jerseys during your career with opponents? Have you got a favorite one or?
I did. Favorite one. That's a good question. Anyway. I was one that was always a little more like shy from going and trading with guys, but there are a few that I picked up mostly in the days that I was in France. I think I traded with. We played Brazil once, and I played against Romario, the age myself a little bit, which was one of the most incredible moments. We played in a back three, and I was literally like man marking him in the day. But I think he came out before it all concluded, and I didn't get one. So that was a day I remember. But I got a jersey from someone I just don't remember who. I'm
Really appreciate you taking the time to join us from Hartford, Greg, today. All the best for the next couple of days leading up to the game against Atlanta, which, of course, we'll have live on TSN, and for the rest of the season as well. And enjoy your time at home when you get it next week for a couple of days.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg. Keep it up.
Greg Vanney, the head coach of TFC. Who's the jersey you remember swapping, Stevie?
One of my
guy called Gary Caldwell. Do you swap with him?
I never played against Gary, did I? So I definitely would have swapped with him. But one of my favourites is Uruguayan called Recoba. You remember him? Left footer KJ, I remember him.
Inter Milan.
Yeah, he played for Inter Milan, and we played them in the Champions League, and I think I got 10 minutes. And I was playing near him. Like, I never went searching for him. I was a bit like Greg. I was a bit shy to do that kind of thing. But I was right next to him when the whistle went, and I thought, I got to ask this guy for his shirt. He had scored a wonderful goal that game, bent it in with his left foot into the far corner, and I got his shirt, and it's one of the few shirts that I actually got framed, and I'm sitting up there. But talking about Gary, his collection's quite incredible. He's got Ronaldinho, he's got Shevchenko, he's got a Barca one. I can't quite remember the player, but he has got like some of the most amazing shirts in one of his rooms in his home. It's quite remarkable. But I was never a big swapper. I always felt like you had to kind of earn the shirt that the guy you were playing against, and so I never went looking for the top player. I always swapped with the guy next to me internationally, and club-wise, I always thought it was a bit weird swapping with a Premier League player. Like, you're in his league, you shouldn't really be swapping shirts with a guy. I just like to remember the few times I got the better of a top player, and the many times I got embarrassed. But to me, it was such a special thing because there's not many can say that Henry scored 4 against them, or that Drogba chested the ball as you tried to header it. There's not many people that can remember what that felt like. So I feel privileged that I had the experiences with the guys.
I don't know.
Anyone said no when you went and asked?
No, I don't think anybody said no. Sometimes somebody was swapping with somebody else and that kind of thing. But normally at the end of an international, I'd just pass my shirt in. I'd say to the kit man, go get me an Italian shirt or a whatever, an Austrian shirt. And so I've got a few shirts here or there. A lot of the times in the days, there was no name on the back, so I don't know who wore it. It may have been a legend, but I just went and kind of just took a shirt and a memory of the game.
Did you ever ask anybody during the game? I bet you didn't, did you?
Oh, are you crazy? No way.
So do you guys know about the Alphonso Davies Messi? You know the Alphonso Davies Messi story? Do you know about that? When they played in the UEFA Champions League, just happened. Alphonso asked Messi during the game if he could have his shirt, and he said, "Yeah, of course." And then what happens? It's 8-2, and Messi walks off like embarrassed. Alphonso still thinks he's going to get it, and then Davies gets pulled as one of the players to give a urine sample for drugs, so that he's stuck in there. Comes out, and Messi's gone. Doesn't get his shirt.
I've not heard that. No,
you can't ask for somebody's shirt during the game. I'm not happy with that. I don't like that. I caught one of my teammates doing that. I would have been mad.
I knew that would wind you up.
Oh, it wound me up something rotten. I never get over it for the rest of the day.
Just before we go, Stevie, TFC against Atlanta this weekend. They've been really struggling of late. Atlanta, they got a point against Miami at the week last night, having lost at home to the Red Bulls. Your mate Stephen Glass is there as the interim head coach right now before they decide which direction they're going in here. What are you expecting from this on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm very close with Stephen Glass. We probably connect at least once a week, and I'm proud of what he's been doing in Atlanta. And it's such difficult circumstances there at the moment. They're a team that have lost their stars. They've traded them, they've sold them, some are injured. So it's just been a really hapless year for Atlanta United. And Stevie gets a chance to go in there probably at the franchise's worst time. I actually don't think it'll ever be as low as what it is right now. And so it's such a hard job to go in there and work with these guys. And I think some of the challenges he's having is consistency and belief in these players. They've lost a lot of confidence. So, from one game to the next, there's varying levels of performance, KJ. And I think that's what he's finding frustrating at the moment. He still knows he can get a big performance out of these guys. So Greg Vanney and TFC should be wary of that. They still have some excellent players, but when you kind of force your power on them, you show your dominance, then they can wilt quite easily. So it should be an intriguing game. I think the first half will be very telling in terms of how the rest of the game will go. I think if TFC come out firing and on the front foot, I think they can overpower Atlanta. But if they stand off and it becomes a bit you have the ball, we have the ball, I think Atlanta could gain confidence and could be a challenge for Toronto.
Yeah, I think there'll be a challenge too. I think Glass has done a good job there. Obviously, he's brought some unity together. It was a fractured side, wasn't it? Both on and off the field. It's been a perfect storm, really, of what has been like. I remember watching that game again. Here we are in 2020. Felt like it was a different year, but that game against Nashville when Joseph Martinez went down, and ever since then, it's like that's happened. Pity Martinez has gone. De Boer, and then Barco, by the way, every time I watch him, and I think he's injured now, the guy gets kicked. If TFC fans remember what Javinko used to get kicked like every game, this is what this guy's getting kicked like. Yeah. And Glass, to his credit, has come out publicly and said, I'm not even telling you where this guy's injured anymore because he's just getting kicked for fun in every game. So, I give him credit like that. So they're a big name. They're a bit like Ferrari in F1 right now. They're a big name. They've had a terrible year because they produced a bad car. But like, as you said, get them when they're down now because next year they're going to be a superpower again. So, I mean, I don't think TFC will be intimidated by them because there's nothing on that team to worry about them at the moment. Now they're integrating the new guy, the DP. But as you said, they can be dangerous. And, in this playoff format, you get in, you win a couple of games, suddenly you've had a good season. And I think that's what Stephen Glass will be trying to push on the team.
And probably, with all likelihood, they won't have had the heaviest loss of Atlanta sports teams this week anyway, given the magnitude of the Braves disaster last night in the world.
He's waited right till the last minute.
Around.
He's got it in.
Oh, wait a minute! Just checking. It's 2-1 in the series, mate. Just checking that. Still, everybody's everyone's piling on the Braves. No one likes the Braves. Everyone's picked the Dodgers. We're up 2-0. Dodgers are still going to win. It's fine. I get it. We're a bad team, and they're the team of legends. They're the ones with the pressure. We'll just see if we can pull this off, right?
No, I'm right behind your Braves, KJ.
You should be.
Enjoyed our trips to
I took you there. Yeah, we got you some memorabilia, some stuff for your son. Yeah, so put on your Braves cap.
Dinner from Roasters right about now, though. Your place in Atlanta,
restaurant of choice. I wish we could go there again, boys.
Brilliant. That's one of the things I'm really like, especially right now, because I'm thinking of this month we had that great trip to New York where you had that hotel in Queens. This time last year we were heading to Atlanta on Halloween, right? It was just like, the dinner at Roasters. It's just
Roasters, Lennox Road. Check it out, everybody. Used to be my hotspot when I was there for a number of months.
Yeah, unfortunately they don't deliver, so not to hear anyway.
Not to hear.
Everybody eats that.
Okay, we got a busy weekend. We've got 2 games, 2 shows coming up. Saturday, I'm looking forward to see Miami as they take on Montreal Impact live on TSN, and Sunday as well, TFC against Atlanta. So join us for both of those. And same time, same place next week for Footy Talks. Thanks to you for watching. And, of course, to Greg Vanney. Some real good insight from Greg Vanney today. So thanks to him for being on the show.
Everyone.